Okay, it's gonna come through here in a second. So glad you called me, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, everybody. Okay, here we are. Just a second. Somehow it got. I don't know what happened. To make it okay. All right, here we are. We are live. It says meeting is now streaming on live Facebook, so we are good to go. I'm gonna just put this. Okay. All right. Ready? Here we are. Hi, everybody. It's good to see everybody today. And I just want to say that it's been quite a wild morning for Johanna and myself. But we're on here just going to talk about just the beautifulness of a spiritual journey and coming into your own and being who you are. And so, Johanna, I just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for having me.
So, Johanna, it's my understanding that you are a psychic healer and you're a guide. But with anything like that, when we start to claim that and we walk in that, there's always a journey and a process coming up to that moment. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about what that looks like? Take as much as you want, share as much as you want, but we're all here ready to listen.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Yeah, it definitely has been a long journey for me. I started getting into spirituality when I was 19 and I'm 33 now. And I can definitely say that it's taken me all of these 14 years to be able to fully own that I'm choosing this path and that this is what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 19, prior to that, I had no experience of spirituality. I had no spiritual or religious belief. I was really, I called myself an atheist, actually,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. I used to read Richard Dawkins. Do you know who he is?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I would still kind of maybe enjoy aspects of his work even now, because I feel like in a sense he has a deeply spiritual viewpoint of life, even though he chooses to express it in a very different way. But I was very drawn to his work, and I was very frustrated with religion at large, and I felt like there was so much untruth being spread through religious belief, like religious indoctrination. And I always had a very hard time reconciling with that. So I built up this anger and frustration towards religion, but also spirituality. But I still had this interest in the mystical side of life. I still had this, I was reading books about Christian mysticism and, different theories about Jesus and Mary Magdalene and the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think they're called. I read books about the Dead Sea Scrolls when I was like 16,
Yes. What you do at 16, right?
Like, I hate religion, but I'm also reading about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, what's going on here?
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So, but what happened was then when I was 19, I started practicing yoga and meditation. And really quickly, that turned into like this massive spiritual awakening for me. And I realized that this is why I am on the planet, literally. And this is what I'll be doing for the rest of my life.
Yes. Wow. So I want to go back to something that you said with regards to religion, because, I have quite the opposite. I had a very involved religious upbringing and got quite involved in all those mindsets and things like that. But you said that you discovered that there were just untruths that you unpacked in that discovery about religion. Would you mind sharing some of those and what they are?
Yeah, sure. I would say, so much of it was purely intuitive for me, like just a feeling. there is something missing here, right? And or a lot. And
That's
always what always felt untrue to me was the divide that religion often causes, and the sense of there being this one right way to live, or this one right book that everyone must follow, this one right perception of what holiness is, or what is the face of holiness, what is the face of God, or what is the gender of God. All of that just felt so untrue to me. Like this is just a man-made concept. It's not. um, how can we how could we possibly be so different, our expressions as human beings, with different cultures, and um, the diversity of the human spirit, basically. How could there be one way that just a specific group of people have found that would be the truth for everyone, making everyone else wrong?
right. Exactly.
Their
Exactly.
experience, the impression that, yes, that was really the core of it. It wasn't, deeper than that, really. It was just like this, this doesn't make sense. Something isn't adding up. Yeah, and I really rejected it from a young age.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting is I would have never seen that in my upbringing and my growing up, in the way it was presented to me was that, I had the truth and everybody else didn't, but everybody could find the truth. The truth
Yeah.
was already in them somewhere. It was
Yeah.
they could find the truth. And I think what you said, something very telling, that the divide, because I believe that religion does a fine job at creating separation,
Yeah.
and that you are separated from the cosmos, but you're also, then if you're separated from the cosmos and the divine and all of that out there, well, then you're separated then from everybody else, as
Yeah.
well, and then the division just keeps going, right? It just does. And so I find that just fascinating that nobody taught you, but you just had this inner sense, this inner knowing that, hey, something isn't right here. But
Yeah.
you went on a quest, though. You read and you did these things. And why
Yeah.
did you do that? Why did you do that? If religion was something that you just didn't want to have anything to do with,
Yeah.
why go on this quest?
I mean, I think that was just my essence shining through, wanting to understand things, and seeking knowledge, basically. I've always been like that, wanting to know and wanting to understand things, and now I see that's very closely tied to my spiritual path, but I didn't see it, of course, that way then. But yeah, it was my intuition,
Yeah.
even then, like trying to guide me, or guiding me towards my own path. Yeah.
Like, take a look at this, Johanna. There is something for you. Take a look. And it's that inner stirring, isn't it? It's that from the
Yeah.
gut, you can't get away from that. I mean, you can
Yes.
run for a while. I mean, but in general, as you need to step into your light, you need to bring what it is you're bringing to the planet. Then there's
Yeah.
that stirring that starts, and I'm thankful.
Yeah.
I really enjoy going on and seeing what you bring out on Instagram and things like that. And you've mentioned about the path that you're on, and so can you tell us a little bit? What is that path? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah. So when because it all really starts or goes back to the awakening I had when I was 19. And sometimes I think it's cringe to use that word, but
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I can have a sense of humor about it. I don't, but
Yeah,
but it
totally.
really, like being hit in the head, and like coming alive, because I started to experience the subtle energetic nature of reality. I started to experience subtle energy, rushing through my own body, and how everything around me seemed to have an energetic field of its own, like plants, people, animals, even objects. So I started to become aware of like the energetic nature of things, and I started to perceive spiritual entities like or beings around me. And I became aware of the guy that still accompanies me to this day, like my primary spirit guide, say.
Mhm.
I met him. He's a he. and and I had a series of out of body experiences, and all these weird things just happening to me within the span of a few months. Really, it was very quick. And through this process, I understood that I am meant to go as deep into this as I possibly can, and I am meant to share as much as I possibly can.
Mm.
So I remember that I was to be conveying information and knowledge in some way, wisdom or whatever you want to call it. And I, this was such a strong awareness. It was so like the
Mhm.
story I talked about, like it was so strong. I just knew that this is what I'm
Mm.
supposed to do, but I didn't know how to do it, and I had so much unhealed and unprocessed trauma within me, and just being a 19-year-old
Mhm.
person, with everything that comes with being, on your way to becoming an adult. It's hard
Right.
anyway.
Mhm. Yes.
I just had this such a strong awareness of that this was what I was meant to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And throughout my journey, I have been helped by a number of people, other psychics, other
Mm.
healers,
Mm.
other teachers that have helped me process, which is a lifelong journey, but process the big chunk, what I needed to process in order to be the person that could carry forth what I meant to carry forth. And one of these very important people is Tanya Mills, who we both
Mhm.
with the spiritual coach, who is amazing. And I've understood that I am meant to help other people
Yes.
step onto their own higher path. And what that means for me being on the path is following my own inner guidance. That's essentially what it means to me, following my own inner guidance and
Mhm.
following my heart and following my true desires.
Yes.
That's what I define as walking your own path, being on your path, not going against yourself and your own true desire in life,
Mhm.
your true calling in life. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful what you're saying about going, against yourself, because it feels like our planet definitely is in an awakening, and people
Yeah.
are discovering who they are. And
Yeah.
sometimes that who they are is a process of letting go of everything in order to embrace the reality of, how you've been created, the gifts you have, the vision, the calling, the mantle that you're to bring to the planet,
Mhm.
and you mentioned the word trauma, and and you can, go as deep as you want in this or not, but trauma, which is another word that sometimes is, overused and misused and all sorts of things,
Yeah.
um, can get in the way of us hearing that innateness on the inside of who we are. So, did that affect you, the trauma that you've been through with hearing clearly as to who you are? Was that the blockage points that you would say were present?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I think the major thing in my life has been shame. Uh,
Oh,
Shame,
yes.
yeah, for so many people. And sexual shame, for various reasons. But really that the feeling of not being worthy, and of their, the feeling of that there's something inherently wrong with me.
Yes.
Yeah. And that I'm therefore not lovable, and that I'm therefore not safe. I will never be safe,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That has really been the thread in my life, and of course, specific events also. But yeah, because being in your own essence, and being able to be in connection with your soul is, because I was thinking about this yesterday, that I was talking to my inner child. I was doing like a meditation.
Yes.
And I was reminded again of how I really think that, there's the heartbreak of losing our recognition of how lovable and how worthy and how precious we are. And then there's like a second heartbreak in remembering that, like remembering how lovable and precious and worthy we are. Because it's like we then again have to feel all the pain from another perspective of, I can't believe that I've withheld all this love from myself, or that I'm holding maybe love from other people in different ways. Even though they're so lovable and precious and worthy.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of lost my train of thought here. I don't know where I'm going.
But it sounds like you're headed on the self-love. It's about loving yourself, honoring yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing your worthiness.
Yeah.
To embrace your path. Because I think I've discovered in my own life, if I don't know I'm worthy, or I think I'm not lovable, or dishonor is always the target I wear on my back, and you're you're continually, that's being reinforced maybe by experiences or your own self saying it, you never fully embrace your path. Because because embracing your path means I am worthy. You're big, I am worthy. And it's not in a pride. I believe, sometimes you can see these I am worthy movements in a very arrogant fashion where it's demeaning everybody else, walking over everybody because I'm important and worthy. But that's not the tone nor the sense that I sense from you. It's about knowing inside, you know what, I'm just fucking worthy. Like, worthy because I'm a human being. I'm worthy. I'm alive. I mean, can you talk a little bit about worthiness? Because I know you talk a lot on this. You're on your Instagram about this.
Well, I think you really put the nail on the head on the nail.
Yeah, that's hit the nail.
What I was trying to say. You know what I'm saying?
I'm following. It's all good.
About needing to feel a sense of worthiness to realize, or to have the courage to believe that we're actually worthy of our true path, because that is really choosing love in such a bigger way. And I really think that the inner child is the gateway in many ways to also all of our spiritual gifts, really. And if we are somehow, or, this is the experience for most people, but when we're disconnected from our own inner child, we can't actually embody fullness of our joy, our creativity, our passion, our natural, openness to life, and our natural curiosity, our aliveness, essentially.
Yes.
So worthiness is so closely associated with desire, because if we don't believe that we are worthy, there's no one there to claim the desire that we have,
Yes.
Yeah.
It blocks everything.
Yeah, it really does. And from an energetic, more esoteric standpoint, if we're talking about the energy system in the body, the lower chakras are, the root and the sacral and the solar plexus, or really the whole energy body develops in tangent with us as we grow, actually. So, and the energy body as a whole is what's meant to be able to channel the full spectrum of who we are as spiritual beings in human bodies. So if we have major traumas that happen early on in childhood, that will actually affect the lower energy centers in the body. And it becomes literally, also from an esoteric standpoint or metaphysical standpoint, harder to channel who we actually are. And this is especially associated with the sacral center, the navel energy center, which is the seat of our creativity and our sexuality and our pure life force that we really need in order to be able to be in touch with what we actually want, but not only that, also our ability to create it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Blooms in the solar plexus.
Yes. So can you explain those energy centers to people who might not know what you're meaning when you're going the root, the sacral? Can you explain those for everyone?
So this thought system, or whatever you want to call it, comes from the Hindu tradition or the yogic tradition, and they call it the chakra system.
Yes.
But really, the way that I work with spirituality is I explore everything through my own senses, right? So when I talk about the energy centers, I really do so from a place of having worked with them myself and experienced what it does, because I really think that there's so much that we don't know yet about the human constitution, as both as physical beings. There's a lot that we don't know about the physical body yet, but even more so about the energetic parts of us, the energetic anatomy. There's so much that we don't know yet, and there's so much that's like, well, this is a theory, but we don't really, who knows really.
Right. Yes.
but for me, the energy centers have been really clear, and we say that they sit along the spine, or like along the central axis of the body. So from the root, from the perineum, or where our genitals are, up to the crown, or to the head, the top of the head. And in yogic tradition, they say that we have 7 major energy centers, 7 major chakras in the body. So the root, where the perineum is, the navel center just below the navel, solar plexus, just below the breastbone, the breastbone, the heart, and the throat, the third eye, and the crown. Yeah, those are the 7. But I really don't put too much emphasis on, this is the absolute truth about the energy body. But I have discovered on my own path that it is really valuable to at least have some sense or knowing about these centers, because even if you don't believe in the energetic aspects of them, they really hold a lot of wisdom around what we need to be well-rounded and balanced as humans, right? From you can liken them to the Maslow
hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of needs. Maslow hierarchy of needs. The root in the base is all about, our basic survival needs, like food, sleep, safety, warmth. And then we like move up all the way towards the crown, where we're talking about, self-realization and merging with the highest aspect of everything that is.
Yeah, yes, right.
So we really
It's just
embody.
that simple. It's just that simple,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
it is. It is in some ways. And it's funny you said, I always, when I started to learn about the chakras, I was really surprised at how that understanding was helpful. And I, like you, I pull from different things and I, glean off from this and take some of
yeah,
this. But it gave me a visualization. It helped me. The minute, the root chakra reminded me of being rooted, being
yeah,
grounded, you know. And I think what's so interesting is when I started going through energy healing, I remember an energy healer telling me, and this was when I was in Asia, she said to me, she said, you have really worked with the higher type of energies, like your crown chakra and where it's all esoteric and I'm just way up there, and she's like, but your root chakras and some of these other things are out of balance.
yeah,
And again, I was just like, oh, I think that's making sense. And as she began to unpack what each one meant and all
yeah,
of that, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like the rooted and groundedness was, I was kind of uprooting myself, but I was all connected way up here. And then my heart chakra was all in confusion. And then, my voice, I didn't even have a voice. I mean, I didn't know
yeah,
how to share my voice, that comes from, a whole lot, again, trauma that we were talking about, all those things.
yeah,
But as I've been learning and learning, I think we're all still learning how to balance those out
mm,
and see the importance of each one. You can't do just 6 chakras and be okay. I mean, and then you can't just do 1, 3, and 5 because that's I only want to do 1, 3, and 5. Forget 2, 4, and 6. It doesn't work that way because we are holistic. We're holistic
yeah,
by nature,
yeah.
and so can I just backtrack for a second, just for some of my audience? You spoke about the inner child, and I think a lot of times people hear that term, and I know even in different circles I was in, especially religious circles, that was kind of woo woo, new agey, like, stay away from that, the whole inner child, Ellen. But
Mm,
my healing, the main healings in my life were to the inner child. In fact, I
yeah.
would say everyone. And then it was an integration. So can you share a little bit, just what the inner child is to you? Because I know it's different to everyone.
Mm, mm. Well, I really do believe that we hold all ages within ourselves. Um, yeah. And it's interesting that you ask, well, what does it mean to you? Because I also like go straight into the metaphysical aspect of it. From a psychic perspective,
Sure, sure.
um, space and time isn't what we think it is. We experience time in a linear way, but from a psychic perspective, um, we understand that this is one dimension, and but there
Mhm.
are many dimensions that are layered on top of each other, and in
Yes,
those other dimensions, um, the laws of physics don't work in the same way, and therefore in other dimensions we don't have to obey linear nature of time.
right.
um, so within this framework we understand that everything is, in a way, everything can be traveled to in space time. So we can travel to things that have happened in the past or things that have not happened yet, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
everything that has happened, in a sense, exists somewhere in space time. But through the soul, everything that we are also exists within us in this
Yes,
dimension. So we
yes.
can reach and communicate with every single aspect of ourselves that has ever existed or will ever exist in this body.
Mm.
And this, of course, includes the inner child, or all our inner ages, really.
Hmm.
Um, and as we were speaking of earlier, the inner child is really the vessel for our coming into this earth, this dimension, this place, coming into being here on this earth. Everybody is born, and everybody is born as this, completely new being that hasn't
Yes.
been here before. So, yeah, the inner child is definitely real, both from a philosophical sense, but from a very literal sense also, I would say, meaning that all versions of us still exist somewhere, and we can use them within ourselves. So
Yes.
I also talk a lot about the inner teenager.
Yes.
I've been working a lot with this past year, actually, which has been very interesting. And sometimes I like to go ahead in time in my own meditations, or working on my visioning and trying to align myself with what's most beneficial for me right now. I will go and talk to a future version of myself.
Yes. And that future version, is it more self-actualized, the future version? Is it
Mm.
a future version that you're creating?
Mhm.
What is this future version? Is she already there and you're already tapping into her?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that we can tap into an infinite number of future versions, really. There's an infinite number of coexisting realities. It sounds kind of cliche maybe to some to say that, but I really believe that that's the case, because we have free will in this dimension, and everything that we do creates, in a way, an alternate reality,
Yes.
depending on what choices we make in different situations. So I see it as tapping into the version of me that has accomplished things that I would very much like to accomplish, or even if I don't know exactly what that is, that is embodying the frequency of, I have done everything that I possibly could do in this lifetime, to embody as much wholeness, both within myself and planet. Yeah, and I don't know exactly what that will entail.
I guess that's the unfolding journey, right?
Exactly.
Of who you are. But that's the creating your reality. I remember when I first learned about creating your reality, I was just like, oh my God, like, right. And I've looked back even over timelines, and maybe you've done this a little bit, but you're like, I've done things that I've actually literally imagined or dreamed about or saw in the future. And it doesn't mean that everything necessarily was like to the letter of the law, meaning it happened this way, even though some have. But it's just the whole spirit of the thing around it. It was just like, oh my gosh, I wanted to do this, and I did that in a totally different context, maybe. But it was like, I did that. How did I do that? How did that happen? You know what I mean? And it's that whole idea of pulling. I believe we can pull from those dimensions you're talking about, that we can pull down into this reality right here. We can just, it's almost kind of like, Abraham Hicks talks a lot about like the vortex, okay, the place where everything is happening, but you're like pulling it down into here. It's like you're embodying it, and you're like walking out that creation that you have imagined, dreamed about, just had intuitive sense about while you're, here, whatever it may be. And that makes life exciting.
It does, yes.
And it gives you power. See, we go back to, and I don't mean like this misuse of power, but it goes back to you when you're talking about, on your page, I always come back to this, but you'll be like, it's the priestess path, a power path, where you're in your power, you're standing in who you are in your power. And it's because you know yourself as a creator.
Yeah.
You know that I can call that thing forth. I can proclaim that thing.
Yeah.
And I can bring it into my reality. And
For
that is
sure.
such a, and I feel like that's what we're all waking up to. It's like a coming home, isn't it? It is
Yeah.
bringing the inner child in a lot of ways back home, because
Yeah.
life, I think, takes our inner child, squashes it down, and then we're constantly kicking up the dirt, decluttering all the shit that's happened. And then we realize, wait, when I was like 7, I dreamed of traveling to Saturn.
Yeah.
What happened to dreaming of traveling to Saturn, but now you're 27, 30 and you're going to Saturn?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
As you begin to unclutter and let go of all that conditioning and all the, the
Yeah.
societal stuff, that
For sure.
comes on us. And you are very much about creating,
Mm.
which is
Yeah.
tapping into that inner child.
Mm.
Now
Yeah.
you
For
call
sure.
Now you call yourself a psychic, okay? And this is another one of those words that can be kind of misused, and people all go, "Oh, psychic." But even though
Mm.
I think it's becoming more the norm, I think people are starting to realize that, psychic and prophet and all these different religiosity terms can all be found and intermixed and intermingled. So, can you tell me a little bit just about psychic? What on earth are you talking about, Johanna?
Yeah, I love that question. So it's interesting with the word psychic. The word comes from psyche, the word psyche, which is Old Greek, which actually means soul. That's what psyche means.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is, isn't it? It is. There was a Greek goddess called Psyche, and she represented the soul. Yeah. So a psychic is someone that works with the soul, in
Mm,
short, say. But as I was talking about earlier, it really comes down to metaphysics for me, which is, just a word to explain physics that we don't have a grasp of
right.
yet. Well, I mean, if you would ask a scientist, they would say, well, metaphysics is physics that isn't real, or it's not
Mm,
it's
mm.
meta, it's above or beyond, or um maybe someone would call it pseudo-scientific to talk about
Oh,
metaphysics.
right. Yep.
Because yeah. So it's working with the soul, and as I was talking about before, the soul is not bound by the laws of physics as we know them. So we, in our physical bodies, have to move through space and time in a certain way. We can only move through linear time, and we can only move forward in time, as of now, at least.
Right.
And we are bound by, yeah, who knows, but we are bound by laws of physics like gravity, for example. We can't fly, and we have to move through space in order to travel. I can't teleport myself and be with you in England. I have to
Mm,
travel, and that takes time. So, but through the psychic template, we understand that the energy body actually can do things that our physical body can. Yeah.
yes.
And this is what psychic ability is. So I always say that psychic ability is an extension of physical body and what we're able to do with the physical body. And that the way that psychic ability is taught, we talk about the psychic senses that are also an extension of the physical senses that we have, meaning sight, hearing, smelling, feeling,
Mm,
tasting. Um, yeah, I think I covered them. But that we have psychic or spiritual extensions of these senses. So from this perspective, I can, when tapping into these senses,
mhm.
perceive things outside of space and time, meaning I
Yes.
could, for example, smell the scent that is in your room right now. If you had lit an incense, I could possibly, become aware of that scent because I am moving outside of space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I
Yes.
could see something that has happened in your past, or something that will possibly happen in your future because I am moving out of time. Yeah.
Mhm.
So most of us have an idea about what psychics do from TV or movies or books, but the way that I talk about psychic ability is really from a place of these are just natural
Yes.
abilities that are really not supernatural, but it's just that we've forgotten about them, and we've suppressed them, I think, as a species for a very long time. And there are very few people that are aware of them at this point in our evolution. And that's part of the awakening and remembering that we're going through, remembering
Mm.
again how
Mm.
we literally use our soul to experience human life in a
Yes.
very, very expanded way. Yeah. And of course, as a professional psychic, I use these faculties to help other people. Yeah.
Mm.
But everyone has them, and everyone can choose to use them and to make them stronger. It's definitely where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So it is available for everybody. It's not
Yeah.
just a select few.
No, no, no. It really is not. No, no, it really is not. And there is a science to it also. I would say there
Okay.
is a science
Yes.
to just like with the physical body. We have to do certain things to strengthen our physical body. If we want to become stronger, we need to do resistance training in some
Right.
way because
Mhm.
the physical body responds to if we put pressure on it, or if we
Mhm.
say, well, I need you to do this now, body. The body goes, okay, we're doing this now, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
If we start running every day, our body is going to become more and more efficient in the way that, we take up oxygen and our muscles becomes bigger and stronger. And it's the same thing with our psychic senses. We can choose to strengthen them. Yeah. And this is very much tied into a science, I would say, that we are also meant to remember on how to do that. But it is available to everyone. Yes.
So do you have some, there may be somebody that's listening that's going, boy, I want to develop that, or I think I've possibly maybe even done that a couple times. What are some ways that, because I know that you're a coach with this too, you help people, you're a guide, you do one-on-one sessions.
Mhm.
Can you help my audience here kind of know some things that they could do just on a regular basis, like when they're every day, to strengthen that gift?
Mm, mm. Yes, yes. So there are some things that I would say are very fundamental, and um, practicing the ability to become very present with ourselves,
Mm. Mm.
I would say, is the number one thing in order to connect with our intuition, because our intuition always comes to us in the present moment. Even if we are receiving information about the past or the future, it is always coming to us in the now. Yeah.
Yes.
Information coming to us in the now. So practicing our ability to be present in the moment, I would say, is the number one thing to do. And many people do this through meditation, right?
Mhm.
There are 1,000 different ways to
Yeah.
meditate.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
becoming present in the moment, and practicing to use one sense at a time, I would say, is also a very good tip. So because the psychic senses are connected to the physical ones, we can choose to um, focus in on one sense at a time to strengthen that sense. So we can work with essential oils, for example,
Mhm.
scent. We can work with going outside and becoming very, very present with what we can hear, listening to the birds. Natural sounds is actually best, like sounds from nature, like listening to birds or the wind or the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Looking with seeing, looking at things and becoming very present with what we see, what we observe, and just really taking objects in, one object at a time, and just really zoning in on that and zoning out from everything else. And what we then want to do with this is practice to, what's the word? I can't think of the English word. We want to practice to come back to these experiences, but within our imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
we practice maybe, different scents, smelling different essential oils, and then we want to step away from the physical stimuli, and we want to go into the experience of what did it feel like when I smell that essential oil.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
funny you're using scents, because I just said to somebody, I'm in my office here, and I said to someone, I said, every time I walk in here, I smell patchouli. Now, none of us in the house have patchouli at all. None of us. Okay, like we just don't have it. No, not at all. And I have essential oils, but not that. And I was like, what is that? Why am I? But it's interesting. It's very innate. Like you come in, you smell it, and immediately you almost don't even have to do much, and you begin to imagine, well, where did this come from? What was somebody in here? Was this, and you just begin to ask these questions like, where is that? I mean, I was looking under the desk, I was looking all around for this, and I smelled it for like 3 days, and then it's not here now, but I smelled it for 3 days, and I was just like, and it was strong. The more I sat in here, the stronger it got, and I thought, I know I don't have it. So it was just really, it's really interesting though, how you can take that sense you're talking about, but then just naturally play with it. I think what you're saying and being present, maybe I could be, maybe it's not the right word, but it's almost kind of like play with what's in the present.
Yeah. For sure.
Creating. Now, do you ask, are you like, let's say you push away the stimuli for a moment, now you're going into a different place. Do you begin to ask for understanding of what that is? Are you asking a spirit guide? How does this look for you?
So the practices that I was just talking about is really just very specific for training your senses.
Yes.
And then, of course, communicating with our own inner guidance. It can be very organic in the sense that we're actually communicating with other beings. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
We're asking our own higher intelligence. So yeah, I ask all the time about everything, basically. Stream of consciousness seems to be where I just get answers to things, right? Yeah. And that really is also a process of discovery and exploring, what can I ask? And how can I receive answers? And really, I think one of the keys to intuition building is that we have to do and practice in order to actually understand how it works for us, because everybody's intuition is a little bit different. It's unique, like our fingerprint, right? We have to learn how to understand our own intuitive language, and the only way to do that is to practice the language. The only way to learn a language is to speak it. You can read all day long, but at some point you have to start forming words, right? So
wow. So when people come to you and they're coming to you for help, or they're coming to you for guidance, do they walk away being strengthened in their own intuition? Because or are they just taking what you say and kind of go off that, they just go off of you, or are you teaching them how to hear for themselves?
I would definitely say that my interest is in the latter. So I don't really do pure psychic readings anymore. I used to do that. but I really stopped doing that, I would say last year. And I only do sessions now that are really built to help someone uncover their own abilities. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. Yeah. And I give guidance from that perspective. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What I've discovered also, and this is very interesting, when we spend time with other people that are very actively using their psychic gifts, it seems to me like it helps to open up our own.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Because we give them permission, and there's a certain energetic resonance that happens. So what I've experienced in sessions sometimes is that people actually have an experience of their own psychic ability because we step into double visioning in the healing journeys sometimes that I do. So I'm describing something, and then they're seeing it before I've said a thing, for example, or they're feeling it, before I've said it. If I'm saying, there's an angel stepping up on your right side, and then I say, oh, there's another one coming up on your left side as well. They already have seen that there's another one coming up on the left side, and they go, oh my God, I saw it before you said
Mm.
it. How
Yes.
did that happen? And I was like, yeah, that's your psychic ability. We're
Yes.
visioning. Yeah. So that's really exciting when that happens for people. I really love that. Yeah. Mm.
So I know we don't have a lot of time left, but we have about 10 minutes. And so I just want to ask you just some questions. So when people do come to you, we're on this again. I just now lost my question too. Isn't that funny? How do I say that? So when a client comes to you and they say, "Oh my goodness, I'm seeing something before you even said it." Do you right there, you acknowledge that, you say, hey, this is your intuitive gift, but
Mhm.
what are you wanting them to gain out of this?
Mm.
Not only growing in their own intuition, yes, that's
Yeah.
important that they're getting their own guidance, but what is it that you really want to see your clients come to?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it really is about the thing that we started talking about stepping up on their own higher path.
Come
And
on. Yes.
yeah,
Keep going.
that really is the goal of everything that I am now offering, and of them stepping into their own truth, of embodying person that they have the capacity to be, that they want to be, and that they even maybe perhaps are meant to be. Yeah, that's the core, that's the goal of everything that I offer. Yeah. And for a lot of
Does that
people that
does
are
it
not, yeah, sorry.
does that now then branch out obviously into everything, because that can flip someone's world upside down when they step onto their real path. So what if
Yeah.
they're afraid? I mean, maybe you have people that get afraid, right? So
Yeah, of course. I think that people that are drawn to me are somehow, or that's also the way that I talk about my work. So it's obvious also, I think.
yeah, it
But
is.
the pull is stronger than the fear, or the pull becomes stronger than the fear at some point.
Beautiful.
And then I also know that I am for some people going to be a stepping stone
Mm,
or in a longer process that maybe will come to fruition in years from now with a completely different healer, right? So I
yes.
am being a stepping stone in their process. And I know for some people, um, I will help them open up completely, and step into it now, if that's what they want. But I really see it as I there's someone who had saying of being in it for the long run, or like this is a marathon for me. It's not a sprint,
Mm,
like
mm,
a marathon, and whatever happens now, we are building up to something, and it's about
yes.
being in the moment and being open for what can unfold here and now, because I also fully trust that what happens now is meant to happen. If I come in with that intention and with love and truth, what is meant to happen will happen when we create that tight, energetic, loving container, right? But also, of course, with fears, that may be due to, for a lot of people, it is actually past life
Yes.
Events that are keeping them afraid of stepping into this and of showing their own spiritual intuitive gifts. That has been the process for me as well.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm not surprised to hear that. Like for so many of us, it's like, what is that life? Or those 5 lives where I was punished for what I'm doing now. So, I was doing the same thing then. And so it's a healing of that, for so many of us. And if that's the case, then we go into that. And that's where it, comes in handy to use your psychic gift for someone else, because you can really drill into and pinpoint what needs to be released and healed.
Beautiful. Okay, so 2 more questions.
Yeah.
So one is, where do you see our world headed?
Yeah, wow. That's
That's
such
a whopping question.
That's such an interesting question. Man, that's hard, Ellen. To talk for another hour.
No, you can.
Yeah, joking with you.
Got it.
I see that we are, I don't want to be a downer, but I see that we are in for some turmoil. As just an outer world circumstances. And this is due to our free will. We have a lot of people in the world in high places that are severely misusing and abusing their free will in ways that are creating a lot of chaos and a lot of suffering and a lot of hurt. And, someone that works with spirituality, it's very important for me to not go into bypassing. And, I'm very grounded in a sense of being able to, or I want to be, at least that's my goal, of being able to perceive, many levels at once. So, I think we are in for some turmoil. But I also want to say that because I really want to say that doesn't mean that things are going to be, that things are lost, or that,
Yes.
I think it's very important to understand that out on an outer world level, I think things are going to get worse, but they are going to get worse and then get better,
Yes.
And I really see this century, this whole century is pivotal in our development as a species. And it's very, very important for those of us that know that we are here to do specific things and that want to help the collective rise into love and truth. It's very, very important for us to take ourselves seriously and realize that we are actually here to make a difference and that we will make a difference. But I really want to say that people that are now choosing to follow their heart and listen to their desires of their heart are going to be helped in so many ways, because there is a collective desire for us to rise into truth and love. And this desire is stronger than anything else, even if it might not look like that on the outside at this point. It is stronger, and this loving force is going to win.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
About this. I think I think it's very important, though, at this point for people not to sit back and wait for things to get better, because I really believe that this could trap us in certain circumstances that we might not want to be with. It's very important to have the courage to act on our guidance and our calling, and to be very responsive in that, and not wait, on outer circumstances to change. Yeah.
And so when we don't wait, are you saying when we are proactive, we can actually change the outer circumstance?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Right. Sitting
Yeah.
on the sidelines going, oh, look, there's Johanna out there. She's doing her thing. Look at
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be over there doing my thing, but I just kind of like watching. I'm just going to observe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the days of observation
Yes, are
ways
over.
are over.
Yeah.
If we want to change the planet,
Yes.
just sit in
Yeah.
the by and by and drink martinis and have a great time. I mean, drinking martinis is one thing, but but you know what I mean? Like, just like sitting in the by and by, just watching the world and hoping it gets better. Or I'm not, this is not a slap in anybody else's face. I just want to say this right now with my next statement, but we can pray all day. But if we are to be an answer to a prayer, it requires action.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of praying all day, and I'll even say just sometimes even meditating all day. And those are good energies, okay, if they're done in from the heart, and that's good energy to put out there, and that's a great place to start. But eventually the meditation and the prayer is going to call you out, and is going to say, well, now what are you going to do? You've been meditating all day, you've been praying all day. What are you going to do now? And all those ideas have come to you in prayer, and they've all come to you in meditation. Okay, they're all there.
Yes.
Come to you, and you're just sitting on them and eating bonbons on the couch. It's gonna pass. What will happen is the things that are given to you will be passed on to somebody else then, who's ready and waiting.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying. It's kind of like firing me up right now, because it's like, the door is there. Like the door is open. Like my door behind me is open. Okay, the door is there. It's open. And why do we continue to stare looking at the hallway? Okay, like you're meant to walk in the hallway. That's why the door is open. So I love what you do. Yeah. I love what you do, Johanna. I love just your heart and the passion and the things that I've seen you bring across. I've loved being in that group for the last 6 months with you, and just watching you come out even more and more and flourish more and more. So where can people find you if they are interested in doing one-on-one healing sessions with you, and where can they find you? And I'll put it in the notes too.
Yeah. So I am on Facebook and IG, and my IG handle is Everything Comes From Her. Everything Comes From Her is my business name, which was a gift from my womb.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my God, that's
from my womb. It came to me. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And she just said, everything comes from her. And I was
beautiful.
Like, oh. Yeah. So everything comes from her. And my website is down right now, but it will be up again soon. And it's the same name, everythingcomesfromher.com. So
for now, people come to your Facebook. They go through a direct message, kind of like message you.
Sorry, Facebook. Yeah. So my name is Johanna HR on Facebook. Okay. But I also have a Facebook page. Everything Comes From Her, the same name. Yeah.
So okay, that's perfect. And the same thing on Instagram for those who are grammars. Okay. Yeah. All right. Perfect. Johanna, this has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ellen. Yes, it was lovely.
I love what you do. You bring a lot into the world. Who you are is you bring meaning. You bring meaning to things. You break things down for people to understand. And I'm just thrilled. And I'm so glad that we had this opportunity just to chat today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well,